Peace and blessings. I pray everyone is doing well. We'll jump right into it. Today's post is called Separation. And in the essence, that is at the root of what we're going through in this country, probably in other places too, but definitely in this country, as it relates to racism, the pandemic, and the responses to the pandemic, uh, more specifically in reference to the pandemic, schools, children going back to school, areas where children have not been in school, and parents are up in an uproar trying to get their children back to school and such. So we're going deep dive. So when I say separation, what I mean by that, I'm speaking specifically of the paradigm, the linear paradigm, which is also the Western paradigm. And I spoke about this many moons ago, so I'll just briefly go through it. When I say the linear paradigm, I mean, in essence, to have a straight line, you have many dots. Many dots make a straight line. And they are put together, but they're in essence separate. And when we say linear, we're thinking first, second, third. So as we have the adage in this country, it's all about being number one. No one remembers number two, and so on and so on and so on. So it's all about separating to you get to the point where there's only one left. So like Highlander, there can only be one. Versus the Eastern philosophy, which is holistic. So although we see in the Eastern philosophy that there is one, we also know that simultaneously there are many. Metaphysics. So how do we apply that? So taking what I just explained in, I won't say put it in layman's terms, but just continuing with the explanation. The only thing that is real is the essence that creates. So people will say God, Allah, Jehovah. I generally say the universe, the creator, the essence. Get a little pushback when I say that, and it takes it from the religious aspects and doctrine, but it also puts in a mindset that I'm speaking of something that is greater, an essence, versus trying to put a picture to or a face to that which creates the great I am. So that is the only thing that is real, and everything else is a manifestation of the essence. So human beings, animals that walk around, species living and breathing, we are manifestations of the essence. So the essence is within each of us. And then the things that we create, which are inanimate objects and so on, those are also manifestations of us, which are in essence manifestations of the essence. Thus you get the old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. So with that being said, if the only thing that is real is the essence, then everything else is an illusion. Again, metaphysics. And say, well, Greg, how can it be an illusion if I'm actually here? Well, you're here because the essence is within you. And getting back to the linear, and I don't want to digress too much because I want to get back into what I started with in terms of racism and pandemic, and you can see, and then come to solutions, or at least some suggested solutions, and that we can apply to help better not only ourselves, but that which is around us, which in essence will help to better the world if each one of us are doing something to better ourselves. So when I speak on the illusion, and then we say, well, no, Greg, we're here. What I mean by that is if the Creator, if I was raised Baptist, so I'll go this route. I was raised Baptist, so I read the Bible. And in reading the Bible, you say first was the Word becomes flesh. So what we glean from that is that the Creator then spoke the Word, and the Word went from the abstract to the physical, meaning the spiritual, mental, and then the physical realms. or dimensions in the simplest forms. So we have that within us. So having the creator within us, we are able to then make or create or manifest things in from the abstract of the mind, the inspiration, to the process of the mental, then to the physical. So in doing that, we may say it's real because we have a belief that it's real. Now, with belief is not necessarily substantiated by fact. So that's the reason I don't argue with people when they start speaking or even prolonging a conversation. When I say argue, I mean debate, not screaming and shouting. But I don't even extend the conversation when the essence of what they are presenting is based upon beliefs. Because, like I said, beliefs are not necessarily substantiated by fact. But when you put faith behind the belief, then that which is an illusion then becomes real to the person who is stating it. So that's how you can get from something to from nothing to something, even though it's illusionary. So, for example, throughout the discourse, throughout the election, 2020 election, although through the courts of laws, through various recounts and so on and so forth, it's been deemed that the election was accurate. The results are accurate. There are those who believe that are not. So regardless of what is presented to them, they have put faith behind that belief, so it is actually real to them, no matter, regardless to whom or what. So that would be an example of taking a belief and now it becomes real, even though it's not true. So that is what I mean to bring it back. That's a, I want to say quick, but I'm looking and I'm taking up some time to break that down. But that's what I mean by separating, or starting to lay the foundation of what I mean by separating. So we have the holistic, which is able to see the linear, which is the one, as well as everything encompassing. Then you have the linear, which in essence may see the whole holistic aspect, but they refuse to even abide by that or be down with that. And that's what we have in conflict with this country. So for example, with racism, when African Americans or other people of color or even Europeans um, are speaking about racism as it relates to African Americans, and they're breaking it down and they're talking about the society and the systemic aspect of it, how it is affecting African Americans in all of the non-major people activities. And specifically, since it's from George Floyd, we're talking about police brutality, you will get those who subscribe to and hold dear the linear paradigm, who will then say, but wait a minute, this is how it's always been. So now that you're talking counter to this, then how are you saying I'm a racist? I never burnt a cross in nobody's yard. I never held any black people back. My people didn't, I didn't know any Africans, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. How is it that you're so sensitive? Like I can't say anything now because anything that I say is now deemed racist. You're being too sensitive. You need to toughen up and get thick skin. We can't even live freely now. I can't have freedom of speech. I should be able to say what I want regardless to whom and what. All of these things with that type of vigor, that type of attitude is from that linear mindset. A holistic mindset will say, well, I may not agree with you. I may not even understand what is making you upset if I use certain words or certain actions. But by the mere fact that it affects you, that means it's important. So thus, let me listen with the open third eye to gain understanding. And even after, and then I will ask follow-up questions to try to get understanding. And even if at the very end I don't agree with you, at least I will be able to understand where you're coming from and possibly have some empathy for you. But at least I will set myself up to not be taking it personal as if you're attacking me when you're explaining that this is how I feel. and then we move forward. Because conversely, an African American will then open up to be um, cognizant of how a European feels as we're discussing racism. And that's how we grow. Because then if we acknowledge each other's feelings, be it if we're upset, if it bothers us, if it's sensitive on either part, now if we acknowledge it on both sides or the multiple sides, then we can say, all right, now how do we move forward to do what's best for everyone? And some will say, well, if getting back to the linear, if you make it better for the African American, then it's going to have to be worse for the European. You see what I just did? Linear. Whereas holistically, we say, well, no, two things can be true at the same time. If you can conceive it, then it can be achieved. Because remember, the essence of God is within us. So all things are possible. But you first have to open your mind and connect with the essence. There we go. So I did speak also on the school thing. And the reason I spoke on it, because with my youngest princess, we're blessed to be in a good school district to where she didn't miss a beat when COVID shut things down. So we were able to get the resources from the school district so that she can be instructed virtually. And then they, around the holidays time, then they gave options to where this district, the kids, especially the elementary schools, where she is in elementary, can go to school hybrid or stay virtual. So we chose hybrid. So now we're on the verge of opening to where there's the options of children can go back to school 4 days a week. And it's quite interesting as I was reading on the school district site for parents, the comments. So overwhelmingly, 90% of the parents or those who were responding were saying it's taken too long. The neighboring school districts have been going back 5 days a week. The school board sucks. They just taking money, blah, 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 all negativity. And then those in the minority were saying, well, look, all of us want our children to go to school. We know the benefits of in-person learning, but shouldn't we take the time to make sure that we follow all protocols and everything is safe within our school, this particular school, elementary school or school district, so that they can go back safely. And then they were getting shot down. Now, the blessing was that no one was being belligerent and calling anyone out of their names, but nevertheless, they were being belligerent. And I just found that quite interesting, and it just helped to add on to what I was going to say, or I am saying, in reference to separation, because I even engaged in the thread. So I posted, with respect to the statistics that are being presented of how safe it is, and if somebody presented like over 95% safe. I said, I've lost a family member and a friend to COVID. They passed. And I said, with respect to the statistics that are saying that it's safe, for those of us who have lost friends and family, and those of us who know, and I also know though some people who have survived COVID, but they have lingering effects. So with respect to all of that, the statistics don't mean really anything to us because we've been affected by it. So we see it and say, yes, we should move forward, but not so gung-ho as everyone else who have not been affected because we've been affected. So I laid it out in that aspect. So the person who responded to me, who was on the side of back to school, regardless, she was quoting stats and so on, and she did that, and then I responded in reference to that. But then the next time, because I didn't want to prolong this, my next time that I responded to her, the second time I responded to her, I said, it's not lost on me that you have not addressed what I laid out in terms of loss and those who are still suffering after surviving or the virus. And her response, I quote, was, I'm not going to read a book. I chose not to read a long book. So I said, I just what's it, S, shaking my head. So I put that SMH. And I just politely said, with sarcasm, slight, little sarcasm, I'm going to say slight, but with sarcasm, that, I pray that you never have to go through any type of loss, or suffering, or anyone that you care for would have to go through any of these things. And I pray that this response is succinct and logical enough to hold your attention. Then I said, peace be upon you. And that was part of the sarcasm, because generally people say that when, somebody has passed. So that was the end of that. But it drove home, to at least to me, that because in the linear mindset, she would not, either did not see, or was able to grasp, or didn't care to grasp the point to say, well, I still have my position, but I can empathize with you and others who have lost. And as I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said that, sometimes when people feel, like just the way our paradigm is in the linear mindset, that if you show some type of empathy or caring, that is considered weak, when in actuality, that's the opposite. You're actually weak when you're not able to empathize, because empathy then connects you to others. And the more that you're connecting to others, and you can see the tongue is not working. So when you can see the common thread amongst people, that is in essence connecting with the universe, which actually is strong, makes you stronger as a person and a being, and as a collective. So my point is sharing all of these things as we are in the midst of this, and we are, quote, as they're saying on TV, turning the corner and starting to, in terms of this COVID, and starting to open up society again. We're doing it, and we're still addressing the racism, because that seemingly is now continuing to stay in the picture so thus far, which is making it quite interesting, especially as we go back to work, where a lot of us have been working virtually, myself included, with this being in the news and initiatives and policies going towards that, racial equality and equity. So as all of us are getting more exposed to it, my suggestion is to keep an open mind to listen to those who you don't agree with, as long as the conversation is not belligerent. And if you find that whoever you're speaking to is just not factual, and if you start presenting facts and they start getting irritated, or you're just like, you know what, this is going nowhere, and that either end the conversation and move on physically, or just change the subject, because just because you present facts doesn't mean that someone is going to say, you know what, you're right. I'm going to change my whole way of thinking because you have presented facts to me. It doesn't work all the time, especially when you have the belief, the faith on top of the belief, then it becomes real to that person. But with all that said, I was going to say it's mandated. This is how the essence works. So lies, in the face of intelligence, ignorance dies. KRS-One. Lies don't live forever. They can't. It's just because there's no legs for it to get the root that is steady and strong to withstand the fire of truth. So all we have to do is continue to not only speak truth, but manifest, show, and prove truth, and that will take care of the lies and falsehood, which is still lies. So it's understood to be that way, because as Frederick Douglass say, paraphrasing, power doesn't give up power just because you reason with it, or you're logical with it. If you want, it's like wanting crops without the rain and the thunder that comes with the rain and all that. That's just part of nature. So we're doing well. And the stronger the opposition, at least at my studies show, is the momentum and the strength that truth is bringing forth. So just hold fast, or as I would say, Ibambe, um, Black Panther. No, that was Infinity Wars when Thanos' forces were invading Wakanda. Hold the line, bam, Ibambe. So um, Hotep, one love. Get that vitamin D. Starting to get warmer. Go outside, enjoy yourself, laugh a lot, stay safe. So, be it if you have gotten your vaccines or not, still stay safe. There will be a lot of those linear mindset, belief, faith that didn't want to wear masks, will not wear masks. So you make sure you take care of yourself, because the world is better for those who manifest love as the essence of love within you. All right. So Hotep, one love, Wakanda forever. We out.